Welcome to the Advisor Summit, the podcast where financial advisors gain analytical insights and tactical strategies from the industry's top minds. The new episode is starting now.
Today on the Advisor Summit, I'm excited to welcome Sydney Squires, Senior Financial Planning Nerd at Kitces.com. Sydney is a regular contributor to the Nerd's Eye View, where she deep dives into the intersection of practice management, process design, and people strategy, helping advisors make nuanced, data-driven decisions that set both their teams and their businesses up for long-term success. She's also the producer of the Kitces and Carl Podcast and a sought-after speaker. A self-professed process nerd, Sydney brings extensive experience from director and team management roles in small businesses, where she's built sustainable, scalable systems designed not only for growth, but for the people. Her career has taken her from Salt Lake to London, giving her a unique perspective on how firms operate across different sizes, cultures, and resource constraints. Today, Sydney combines her background in leadership with a passion for research, data, and psychology to help advisors build firms that are intentional. Let's welcome Sydney to the Advisor Summit. Sydney, welcome to the Advisor Summit podcast. We are so excited to have you on and to really learn from you and just kind of dive deeper into your journey. I feel like you've worn a lot of different hats. You have been the producer at the Kitces and Carl podcast. You've spoken at NAPFA and XYPN, and also are involved with Kitces. And on top of all of that impressive resume already, you're also on your journey to get the CFP, which I've heard is in March. So you're almost at crunch time by the time we're recording this. And I just want to say kudos. You've done a lot, and we're excited to kind of pick your brain and learn from you.
Yeah, thank you, Molly. I'm so excited to be here. And yeah, just kind of talk about what the journey has been. It's been nuts so far.
Yeah. Nuts, but also I think very entertaining. So, you can't have boredom in life at any point. So for the listeners who maybe don't know you or don't kind of know your story and what you do, how do you usually explain what you do and kind of what part of your work highlights and lights you up the most? And I feel like this is always hard because even my husband, and maybe your husband as well, is like, what do you do? You know?
Yeah, no, if you asked like my family what my job was, they would all give you different answers. But the really short way, if I'm describing it to someone who doesn't know me, is I say I'm a writer for a financial planning website.
Okay.
Anyone who's familiar with the Kitces.com Nerd's Eye View whole thing knows that that's a little bit of an undersell.
100%. I was like, no, you do so much more. But yeah, you got to put it in layman's terms.
Yes. So the way that when I'm talking with, financial advisors and everyone who's kind of in the industry is basically my work on Kitces kind of ends up on two ends. So the first is like the very curative. Anyone who writes for the site is probably emailing back and forth with me. We're trying to really, refine those ideas and all of that. And the second is a really creative of, I do the writing, I do a little bit of the production work for Kitces and Carl. My job title is literally nerd. So like there's a degree.
I love that.
We need someone to have a brain on something, and we think like Sydney's brain should be on this thing, and like that happens a lot at Kitces. There's a set of people who just have nerd in their job title, and it's kind of just like we might call on you to do something if we need you to do it. Is kind of how that works out.
I feel like it's a superpower though, and I feel like it's such a compliment these days to be called a nerd. Maybe not so much when we were growing up, but now it's like, no, I am a self-proclaimed nerd. That's what we do. And especially in our field as well, the analytics side, everyone's like, oh, but that's so dorky. And I'm like, yes, it is.
Yes. Oh my goodness. I have been it is so fun to land somewhere where I'm like the worst person at Excel, and I think I'm pretty decent at it, for example. Like just the analytics side, the nerdiness, really getting several layers deep, and particularly on the writing side, doing 4,000 plus word deep dives. Like it's cool to be somewhere where people want that level of information. I'd say that's kind of my favorite part.
Yeah, it's definitely not surface. I mean, if anybody's read anything off of Kitces.com, it's not surface level. It's very much a deep dive. And then kind of, I guess we can start there for certain. How do you measure whether content is actually worth someone's time or worth producing? I'm sure you get a lot of entries, a lot of submissions. How do you kind of navigate what's worth it and what's going to help the financial industry versus what's kind of fluff?
Yeah. So the way that I kind of like to differentiate with really, really good stuff is this something that gets deeper than the presenting problem?
Hmm.
So something, for example, that's a really common example, right? Is succession planning is a bit of a crisis in the financial
Yeah.
planner industry. Even if you have something set up for the agreement, the lead advisor may not be always following through on that on timeline. There's complications with hiring. I think I've only seen a handful of succession plans actually execute on time. So you kind of get two ways that you can approach that, right? So you can write that from the very high level of like, there's a succession planning crisis. We should not have one.
Yeah. It just is there. The highlighting that it's happening.
Yes. And then kind of the second level is diving kind of deeper into, there's a couple of angles that you can take it from, which is like why succession plans might not work, but you're really speaking like to the person who's looking to take over the firm and like what is blocking things from their point. You can really get into like the lead advisor, and we have really interesting research that talks about advisor satisfaction and basically like, yeah, if you've worked at your advisory firm and you've kind of built this thing, odds are you're probably at your happiest in your 60s, which then just when you start with that data, you start getting into like this other, like you get deeper than that presenting problem of the succession crisis and you start getting into like, okay, but what's a second layer for like,
Yeah.
if everyone knows logically that succession plans need to eventually happen, what's actually stopping them? And when we can get into that second layer of problems, I feel like that's where people really show up, and also where honestly it's much more interesting to read. Like we work on really long form stuff, so we
Yeah.
kind of have to get to really deep problems and also give an insight that is something, I'll say the word like less intuitive, or like
Yeah.
give a really concrete roadmap just to be worth their time.
No, absolutely. I mean, I think too that's people are seeking out solutions and they're seeking out different information. They know that there's a problem, but just saying there's a problem doesn't help find the solution. It's so I completely get where you're coming from. I feel like you do a lot of your personal filter. And is there a specific topic or something that you really love to write on? I mean, yes, the industry as a whole is really cool, but is there anything that really lights you up as far as, yes, this is something I feel like I have a lot of knowledge on and want to share?
Yeah, I mean, I think that my really big thing is I love writing about, management
Yeah.
and people problems. I love the psychology side of just what makes humans tick, and
Yeah.
that's where I'll occasionally write it on, how people think about money or talk about it. But I love I have worked in, really small businesses for my entire career, often doing project planning, often trying
Yeah.
to build a small team or figure out a process that gets people moving on time. And, I it is harder, people who haven't managed, it is harder to get everyone on board and pointed in the right direction
Yes.
than I think necessarily people always appreciate.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I always find that like there's kind of an evergreen, there's just always something to write about of like what happens when you put a bunch of people in the same room and try to get them to do the same task and to understand things, like is to me like a very interesting and fun problem to write about.
Yeah. Do you feel like, especially with small teams, and you've done this a few times now, putting in processes in play, getting everybody on the same page, do you feel like there's an overarching issue that you've come across that you're like, man, this is really relevant to every small business, or is it really dependent on the personalities and characters in the room?
Honestly, I think that the thing that I've seen most consistently is processes tend to go one of two ways in a small business. One is like there is just no process. We're just going to
Yeah.
figure this out every single time. Slash, I call this the 6 p.m. on Friday process, which is like we built this thing because we wanted to start our weekend and we
Yep.
decided we would circle back to it, and we never did. I've done this. This is a like self call out to
Oh, I love self-awareness. I am always the first to say I will call myself out first. So I love a
Yeah.
self-aware moment.
And then the second is kind of building a process that will capture 100% of the scenarios every single time, which means that it's basically unexecutable, right?
Yeah.
Because you're trying to capture every single edge case. Everyone's had the thing that like blew up that one time in a different way.
Yes.
And so I find in the corner that I'm in, finding that sweet spot of something that expresses about like 80% of the way things will go.
Yeah.
Provides enough coverage for those weird use cases, and then doing it in a way that everyone who's involved on the process feels sane. Like, I feel like I usually either see it at like 0 and stuff is in shambles, or 100 and nothing can move.
Yeah.
And yeah, like that's tough. That's really tough to find that balancing point.
It is hard because I think too, I don't know if you've ever done like the working genius study or anything like that. Everybody finds differences. Some people are very in the weeds people, and I work a lot with people like that, which is amazing because I am not. I'm a very trees person, I call it. So it's either like kind of stepping out or stepping in. And that's just tough because everyone thinks that there's different levels of, yes, this is how it should be, or this is how it needs to be. And in reality, neither's right nor wrong. You have to kind of work together to find that middle balance. So
yes, that's very true. There's like I'm wonder discernment in working.
Yeah.
Tenacity is my frustration.
Same.
Yeah. I'm like, someone else has got to keep this thing moving because boy, am I not going to. But you know, I once managed 2 people who had basically opposite working genius scores and very similar job roles on paper.
Yeah.
And it was very interesting just from a project management perspective, like trying to figure out how can I set something up that basically flows the same way so that everyone else affected by them like doesn't have to adapt too much. And then how can I explain it or like funnel what I'm doing with them specifically in a way where they, in their very opposite corners, can feel really happy with it. And that was we got there eventually, but it took a lot of troubleshooting to figure it out.
I was going to say that's either going to go really well because they're going to complement each other in some ways, or it's going to be really difficult because they're going to be complete opposites and focus on the right things. So
yes.
Oh, that's a lot. So, and kind of just, I mean, even kind of just piggybacking off of career development and specifically in the financial advisor industry and just kind of forming teams. What are some things that advisors misunderstand a little bit, maybe about their teams or about their processes when they're trying to build kind of this long-term career? And what are kind of the misconceptions that they see or find?
Ooh, more from a management end? If you're
If you're hiring, you're building a team. I think a lot of times I just have a heart for the smaller advisors that are solo and then are really trying to get into that kind of scaling phase. And I feel like it's just a lot. It's a lot to take on, and everyone that's scaled has had to go through it. But if we can kind of navigate that, I feel like that's a lot easier.
So I think that the really big thing is many times, if you have built and started your own financial advisory firm, you're probably someone who's very good just with like, you're pivoting, you know, your day comes in and you adjust for it. And that is awesome. And that, what I'll say is hopefully freeing, which is like, that means that if you want to hire your first person, hire someone who is really operations and process minded, but also know that you don't have to sort your things out before you hire them, because you are not going to sort it very well. And the organization person will walk in and say, why would you do things this way? Could I just organize your stuff for you? So I guess what I'll say is like, I often see advisors kind of get stuck at that step one of like, man, I really need help, but like bringing someone in to show them this would be kind of mortifying. And often when I, talk to advisors who are a few hires down the road, it's like the happiest kind of pairings I see are the advisor gets to go be their like fast iterative self. They get to build things, and then they have found someone who's very good at the guardrails, the structures, and all of that, and they just understand how to work together. So you don't have to have as much infrastructure for your first 2 hires as you think you might. which I think can be nice to hear.
I think that's so freeing. Like, let it be messy. Let them see it all, just put your cards on the table. And like you said, somebody that is process oriented and is organizational is going to find that to be a really fun challenge and a really fun moment. And it's like you said, you don't have to, for advisors who are very entrepreneurial. And this is what I love the most about them. They are so go, go, go. And if you try to organize, like you said, that almost is doubling the impact for this next person coming in. Like, release the kind of control a little bit, release it to them and say, okay, maybe this isn't necessarily how I wanted it to be, but it works and it's how it's going to be in the future. And somebody else is in charge of it. Amazing. Now go sell, go do your thing.
Yes. And I think that's one of the really tough parts about hiring a person is, you hire someone to delegate to them, and then you realize that you actually have to delegate.
Yeah.
And that is so scary. I don't know. Yeah. Like it is in so many ways. It's like, man, that is, your baby. That's the thing that you built and all of that. And, to that end, if you're starting off with your first few hires, I think it really becomes important to start with like, what's the overarching goal? And what is the overarching thing we're trying to get to clients? And then from there, kind of like, okay, and what are all the other avenues that people can do to get there, even if it's not what I would have done?
Right.
And as a manager, sometimes when I've gotten that started, it just means I like literally have to send them their task. And then I'm like, I just need to like go away. I just do not want to do it.
Just leave. Just go on a trip. Just don't talk to them. But it's frustrating for them. They're like, you asked me to do this and now you want to control it, then just do it yourself. Like, I see that. So no, that's tough. That's tough. And I feel like you are very, process oriented and data obsessed in some ways, which I love. That's exactly how I, identify. But how do you manage that with kind of the human side of the team dynamics as well? Because we're bringing in a lot of personalities. I do find that people do tend, this sounds horrible, but they do tend to kind of go into a certain box. Like, people are who they are, and there's kind of a slim number of how people work in process, and everyone's unique in some ways, but also we all work in a similar fashion. So how do you balance that kind of human side versus, hey, this is the process and this is the data? How does that work?
I've found from my end, I have tried historically to give on every single thing that does not actually matter, if that makes sense. Yeah. Like I have really found over time that I need to both A, actually delegate, and B, lend flexibility wherever I actually can. So then when I do have to put up a wall and be like, I know that you really don't like this and I really do have to insist on it. Yeah. Like, I've kind of chosen that battle and have also demonstrated that I take their opinion really seriously. Yeah. And like, I think that there's a degree to which like then we can sit and like, I know that you're unhappy about it and I'm happy to hear you talk about how unhappy you are about this thing. And if we can find a way to like, if there's a way down the line to change things, we can. But like for right now, I've given on what I can, and hopefully that makes it so then whenever I do have to put a line down, the line is taken a little more seriously because they know it's not just, me dying on every single little hill.
Yeah, no, I love that. I feel like it's a very just common thing in general in life. Like, choose your battles, choose what's worth going to battle for. Like, if someone wants to use a black instead of a blue plan, awesome. Like, cool. Unless any compliance person hearing this, like, we will adhere to you every time. But you really, the overall compliance, you tell me what to do. I'm okay with it. Like, whatever. But it truly is, it's so fair. It's so fair. You just don't want to be a stickler about every single thing because, like you said, then they don't feel heard. And the best thing we can do really is to have buy-in from the team. And I'm sure you feel that even at Kitces, it's everybody's on the same page to move the needle in the best direction. So
yeah. No, and to that end around, the data and the processes and all of that, I also find it's really helpful to build with people who are very different than you are. I mentioned my working genius frustration is tenacity. For those who don't know working genius, that basically means all of the really detail-oriented, do the small task, push the thing through. Let's just say there's a reason I write 4,000-word articles.
I love that.
I will do really big tasks all day long, and I really struggle with all the really small ones. And hired someone who's far and away like genius was tenacity.
Yeah.
And it took me probably a solid year to learn how to delegate to them because I was so convinced that I was delegating the very, very worst things to her.
Yeah.
And once I started actually like, no, she enjoys this, and started internalizing that, that was a really fun way to blend the data and the processes. You know, they were able to take on a bunch of new responsibilities. They were able to start progressing in their role. I was able to not do things I didn't like. And yeah, like what I'll say is like, if you're a data and process oriented person, like use your data to be a better human person if you can.
Yeah. I love it because in the meantime, she's over here like, this is the best time of my life, you know, doing the data, doing the process and the just tenacity thing. So yeah, definitely if anyone hasn't done Working Genius with their team, I highly, highly recommend it. It's just so good. And it was a huge game changer for our team. And I think if anything, it just allowed everyone to go, man, we're not all similar. And now I get why, you know, you do this way or you do this way. And I feel like every time we even talk about it, I'm like, that's why, that makes more sense. And I'm with you. I work with tenacity people because I'm like, first of all, no, like absolutely not. I do not want to take it to the finish end. Do you find it's like similar in your personal life also? I know this is veering a little bit from the topic, but it's like the minor things I'm like, I just don't want to do that.
Yep. Oh yeah, you do not. Let's just say there's a reason my camera does not show my desk.
I love it.
It would take me 2 minutes to organize my desk, and yeah, it just simply will not be done.
It's not happening. It's not happening. I even love Working Genius. I mean, my husband just started his own business as well, and so it's been really interesting. But I love doing Working Genius as a family too. And for those, you know, with older kids and stuff, it's really fun because then you're like, okay, I understand now why you don't want to clean the bathroom or you don't want to do this because you don't like the small things. But if I tell you go do this big thing, they're like, yeah, absolutely. So
yes, that's
I love
very
it.
true. I've been trying to diagnose my husband and my
Yes.
what his thing is. I just need to have him actually take the assessment.
Take the assessment. I love that. So, so let's talk a little bit too about the data side, because I do feel like that is a big thing that you do at Kitces, and it's a massive endeavor, and you guys all bring so much just light to this industry and knowledge, and it's a really cool thing. So how can firms kind of use the data without turning the culture into something cold or transactional? Because I do find a lot of times when our firm as a whole is very people oriented, but we also, our whole service and offerings are resources and data, you know, analytics and education around that. So how do you take that without turning it into very cold and just structured and keep the human?
Yeah, I mean, it's honestly a really tough balancing point. I think one of the things always to be really mindful of when setting metrics is that what gets measured gets managed. And sometimes when I set up just things for people to point towards, like just in a team building sense, I try to set stuff that has a little bit of tension between it. Like, for example, you may experience this with the resource side, like, hey, we need X number of downloads. Okay, cool. Like or X number of downloads for this resource to measure if it was helpful. Like, okay, great. Maybe we should also look at, you know, time on page or scroll depth or something that's like the counterweight of like, you can't just make the resource and put a clickbait title on it. Not that you guys would do that.
No, I love it. Give us examples.
But like, so you can't just, set up the page with a clickbait title and really no substance. Like, you need to set up something that's like, okay, is this actually going to help people engage? You know, the phrase I really like on the whole for advisory firms, and I'm going to forget which Renaissance artist said this, but basically that they mastered painting so that then they could ignore all of the rules. And if this was not a Renaissance guy who said it, don't tell me.
Oh, gotcha. It sounded very theological. It was very, it was very in depth, so it was perfect. We're keeping it.
But I really love that because, you know, I help work on the Kitces research studies. I write a lot about the research and stuff like that. And I always find that, like, you know, data should be a starting point. Like, the measurables are such an awesome starting point. And I also think that there's room for, like, okay, now I'm going to choose the way that I'm going to be different. Whether it's, hey, I'm going to publish this thing, and I know that, like, it's going to have a smaller reach to a smaller audience, but, like, boy, is that audience going to really, really like it. Like, I will take the breadth hit to get a depth hit, or hey, I'm aware that this fee structure is going to be a little harder to scale, but I really want to work with accumulators and not retirees, so I'm willing to, choose that version of hard, and stuff like that. So I always find it like, whether it's internal or industry, it's a really helpful starting point. And then, like when you're different, go into it with your eyes open and choose your different a little bit.
I love that saying, the breadth versus the depth. Like, who are you actually trying to attract? Because I think, too, we found this also. We can't be everything to everyone. We have to really niche and focus and not just do the clickbait. And even if you have 10 people that found it incredibly helpful and was life-changing and impactful versus 100 people reading it and going like, oh, okay, that was cool, but not really impactful, it makes a difference. And at the end of the day, isn't that what we're all here to do, is to help others and make a difference in this industry, whether it's, through our own personal gain or just for the gain of others. So it's huge. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
So you've spoken at NAPFA, you've spoken at XYPN and Kitces. What kind of themes do you feel like keep coming up across these audiences for the advisors as the whole? And what kind of conversations do you think we maybe need to have more honest conversations about in this industry? I mean, obviously Kitces does a ton of research. What's kind of up and coming as something that really needs to be spoken about honestly?
Ooh, depending on how much time we have, I could just
all day.
But I think that one of the really big things that people are starting to have more conversations about is, in the dynamics of like how to build a team. I think that there's both a degree to which it's like, okay, if you're leading a small team, you still get to work, really, really hands-on. If you really start building a team and you start doing it really well, unless you're very consciously, whether it's, having someone else manage a lot of the team, whether it's like, you're going to end up being a leader and not an on-the-floor advisor.
Gotcha.
But I think that the other piece that kind of maybe gets under-discussed a little bit is, in those really early hiring decisions, there's a really tricky trade-off to make in that journey into, I'm going to be a leader that comes with making sure that those really young people get a lot of career growth opportunities.
Yeah.
I see a lot of, for example, I have worked and spoken a lot about associate advisors, and they need to know that they can move up in the advisory firm. And I've also spoken with a lot of lead founding advisors. Some of them want to stay at just the colloquial 1+2 team.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, how do you talk with the associate about that up front? Because then you probably won't keep them for forever. And that's fine. But again, choose the way that you're different. So that you end up with someone who wants that.
Yeah. Because somebody might want that. Someone might be like, you know what? I do want to be an associate forever. That might be, a good spot for them.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that there's a lot of just that tension, between the there's a founder who may want to grow, but just, it's really tough once you make your first few hires and you're kind of resetting that profit margin a few times to continue to provide those upward momentums. And then there are some people that are like, hey, I actually don't want to grow into the founder leader thing. I want to stay in the founder advisor role. And that means just different things for team growth for you guys. So I don't know. That's just, it's a really tough crossroads. Those first few hires, I think we could say a lot more, both for the people management side of things, as well as just the advisor the founder themselves. It's hard decisions all the way through. For how to do that.
I feel like also for anyone listening that, is in that position, there's really no right answer. There's no right or wrong way. I feel like sometimes we get stuck okay, what is the right way to grow, or what's the right way to scale, or what should I be a 1 to 2 advisor? Should I be, this massive conglomerate firm that I'm just a CEO? And it's so dependent. And we see it all. We see lifestyle practices, we see massive conglomerates. I feel like there's really no right answer. It's what do you want to do, and what, fills your bucket and is going to make you feel like you made an impact in this industry. So there's just so many. What kind of, you're getting your CFP, so that is such a fun journey. And anyone that's not following Sydney on LinkedIn, you absolutely need to, because she's, one, entertaining, but also, two, there's just so much knowledge and excellent advice in there. But what is your idea for the future with that certification and with that license? What is your end goal?
Ooh, that is kind of the $1,000,000
Okay, I mean, like everybody's asked me this 900 times. I'm tired of my parents asking and my husband and
No, I kind of see, in the here and now in my role, like I'm really excited to get the chance to use it to I mean, create better stuff, be able to talk more knowledgeably about
yeah,
the really technical topics. The other thing is I do a lot of work in my community. I'm working to do more, and I would love to have the letters behind their names, behind my name, and really know, internally how to genuinely
yeah,
help people. And while what I'll say is, Sydney 5 years ago could not have guessed where I am right now. And to
yeah.
that end, I'm excited to see what doors end up opening through the CFP, just because, I wouldn't have guessed back then that this would be the route I was taking. And so I don't know what the next route looks like beyond that, which, might be a non-answer, but that's about as good as I've got right
No,
now.
I love that. And I feel like there's so much freedom in that. And it's like you don't have to know what the next 5 years looks like. And like you said, we didn't know where we were going to be 5 years ago. So why do we think we're going to anticipate? I am for goal setting, I am for planning, but at the same time, I also am there for let it roll and decide how it's going to be and take it as it comes and do your best in every day and then let the chips fall where it may. So I'm a big fan. We're rooting for you in every aspect. So
No, I'm a big proponent of the end of history illusion that like we never really know what our future selves are going to want. So
yeah.
I'm very much like gonna keep following what feels good and what feels right, and that has seemed to have worked pretty well so far.
Yeah, yeah. No, I love that. So, kind of final wrap up questions. If where can people find you and your work and kind of keep following and learning from you?
Yeah, the absolute best way is to follow me on LinkedIn. Sydney Squires, spelled like the city in Australia, is always the
I love that. Is that how you? Yeah, I love everyone has something for their name.
yes, that's a quick one. Yeah, and then if you are a Nerd's Eye View subscriber, keep an eye out. My content usually goes out on Mondays and all of that. So that's if you want to see the really, really long form takes and stuff that's on
Yeah.
my mind, look there. If you want to just see more in the day-to-day, how I'm feeling about my CFP education and all of that, hop over onto my LinkedIn.
I love that. I love that. So we end every Advisor Summit podcast with a question. Where are you tracking today, whether it's personal or professional? So I feel like we know the CFP is happening. Any other kind of cool things, whether it's, I mean, we've had people that are like, yeah, I'm going to go do a triathlon or, fun, or I'm going to go visit 5 countries this year, or anything personally that you're super excited for.
Ooh, yes. I have been, so I play tennis pretty competitively,
Okay.
and all of that. So I am trying to track, hopefully this summer, my USTA rating, which is basically the types of matches that you can play and all of
Oh,
that.
awesome.
And kind of see if I can nudge that a little higher. Especially doubles is not my strong suit. So,
I love this though. What a fun thing. Something we didn't know about you. This is so cool.
so
Oh,
that's a big goal. Once the weather warms up and the snowstorms stop and all
yeah.
those details.
Yeah.
So
Well, that's awesome, Sydney. I mean, we're so rooting for you both, I mean, personally and professionally. And we just appreciate you coming on and taking your time to really educate the masses and tell them, I think management in general is something everybody strives to be good at. So it's really about, understanding where your role is and how to accommodate that. So thank you so much.
yeah, thank you. I had a lot of fun.